And this was a long time ago. This was very early in the days of the internet. He was playing this game, and his dad was a scientist at Los Alamos, and he lived in Los Alamos.
Yeah.
And he was playing this game, and he hooked it up to his dad's computer,
Yeah.
you know, in order to get it to be quicker or something.
Yeah.
And anyway, his dad had a program. The programs got confused about who they were, you know, and so
give me the end result.
the end result was that this thing started sending automated cars around to people's houses with guns in them that would shoot them and stuff.
So there's a lot of these nightmare doomsday scenarios. Well, basically, I want to just give an overview. We were talking about the Big Bang Theory being overhauled, and you're saying just a perpetual universe. Now we shifted over to the war with
Look
AI.
for this guy's name. His name is Fred Saberhagen.
Yeah.
And
I don't know anything about it.
Okay,
if you folks want to look it up.
Anyway,
let's talk about our own
science
views on like what's going on today. You have Elon Musk and you have other people talking about
the idea, the possibilities of what people are willing to accept.
Give me something original. We don't want to talk about this stuff. What did you just say about a bulldozer?
Oh, what I said about a bulldozer was simply that any kind of machine will chew you up.
You engage it to go forward.
When Cyrus McCormick first, started making machines to harvest crops, and they started chewing up the kids. You know what I mean?
This is what I want to hear. Your idea was more, just
tractors
fresh and
turn over routinely, and smash the kid who's driving the
And that's
thing,
not even not even sophisticated electronics.
No,
that's
it's not.
It's
just
basically
a machine
that you put
Except
in drive.
Except that the machine got more complicated than the people.
So let's talk about the thinking, the computer programs that are about to do the same thing right now. Are we looking at an inevitable war? People are the problem. Well, you're taking the side of the computer now.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that the
people are going to say we're the problem.
Like in 2001, the problem was the general. It wasn't Hal.
Okay, there's another movie, and I know we talked about that. Hal opened the pod bay doors, Hal. And
they did another one called 2010. It wasn't as good a movie, but they were trying to tie together some of the stuff,
Who did that movie, by the way?
Yeah, it didn't work very well.
Well,
Roy Scheider was in it.
Anyway. Well, it was directed by
I don't think Kubrick did.
Stanley Kubrick.
I don't think 2010 was directed by Kubrick.
Oh, the sequel?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't remember.
One of the things that made 2001 so chilly was that Kubrick directed. He did A Clockwork Orange too, and Malcolm McDowell. That was a pretty scary movie.
Yeah. I tend to like Francis Ford Coppola a little bit better.
He's pretty good too.
But he never did come back to do his. He had a great plan to do a big sci-fi. I don't know if you're aware, but he just fizzled out because he couldn't do it his way, and he was mentoring a lot of people over in California, and then I don't think it'll ever get done. But it's like one of those things. It's more like the concept. It will never be a full-blown.
Yeah, Apocalypse Now was kind of like this big thing, and everybody's scared of it.
More psychological. But I don't want to digress. Let's talk about the AI. Why is it a serious thing to discuss? How close are we to this actually happening? And is something like it going on already?
I haven't made any decisions about it.
Is there any indication or any evidence that the military is right now struggling against its own computers?
No,
to
I
get
don't
things
see any.
in line?
Only in the stupidity of the people that are setting them up.
You
have a systems analyst, and he sets up something stupid, it's going to do stupid. Garbage in, garbage out.
But let's talk about the drones that they're sending out.
Drones.
Different types of drones.
Well, they have said
that can do whatever they want.
Line of sight. That's the latest that I heard was that that it's like RC aircraft. They don't want you flying them where you can't see. In other words, like having a TV camera on them is not good enough.
What about the fact that in the news about a month ago that they were saying that all this kind of system of the military is outdated? Even some of their own military brass were admitting as such that.
You mean in terms of drones?
As far as NORAD, as far as.
It's air defense. Oh, that's a big jump.
A lot of this stuff was outdated. That they.
Oh
really
yeah, well,
needed
it's
to
been
overhaul,
outdated for a
and,
long time. It never seems. Well, of course, a part of the thing is.
It's a more isolated
everybody's
system which relies on itself. It's not connected with the internet.
Well, yeah, but
archaic. I mean, is it good enough to have that outdated system?
Well, like what happened while I was there was in the 1960s was that they eliminated half the computers because they didn't need them, because the programs got good enough that they could handle all the information that they needed with half of them.
Because of the processing?
Oh,
Instead
yeah,
of having
they can handle the air defense.
they would have like micro.
They can handle the air defense picture.
Yeah. Quicker and more militarized.
Yeah, because the programming got better, the writing got better.
Okay.
And these were vacuum tube machines, and they had contracted. They had spent a lot of money to get IBM to build a transistorized version, but they scrapped it. They had a logistics computer that I saw at Kingston, which was a transistorized logistics computer. It was really slick. It looked like the movie 2001. It was pretty good. But I was back in that day.
It was before they went to the silicon.
And so I don't know what they've got now.
Right, they weren't with chips. With the chips, when they got Intel, they started to integrate those.
Well, a Sage Blockhouse is a big cube of concrete, and one whole floor is a duplex computer with vacuum tubes in it. Now they probably don't even use these anymore. They probably do have.
How much computing could that thing do?
Yeah, well, it did its job, man.
2 + 2.
But it was a mammoth operation. It was a big deal. But as far as what they've got now, I think that the main problem that we have with everything on this planet that the military does is that it's really being driven by the guys who want to sell that crap to them. It's
like
a
the military
great big
industrial
pile
complex.
of money, right?
So they come
one
up
of the
with something
things
that we
that
want
they
to
always
sell you
say is,
contractors.
"This is obsolete. We got to have a new one."
Okay.
It
but
helps
the
if the Russians are a problem,
is not,
because then you can say they're getting ahead of us.
These designs, the military is basically the sale end point of the other guys who are coming up with something to sell. I want to sell to the government. There's the new program.
First one I worked on was more distributed. The units in the field had them, ships had them. Cannon had them. Oh God, what was the other thing? Well, anyway, these were called GPA-37. They were analog computers, and they did the same thing that the Sage computer did. It calculated a vector. You got something that's moving along at this speed, and you want to know where to intercept it. You know what I mean? It's like if you
using radar.
Oh yeah, well, by using the radar, you know how fast it's traveling and in which direction.
It has to compute this live.
And they do it live,
Not just for scenarios.
Yeah, this is live. Yeah, they can do scenarios, but that's just practice, And anyway, this thing was used to it would take the roll out of a ship, so that as it's bobbing around on the ocean, it would add that in so that the picture was stable, so that when you shot the guns on the ship, then that was taken out of the equation.
Oh, air to surface to air coordination.
Oh yeah, or another ship. It was for gun laying. It was.
Okay, well, all this is very interesting.
And they
I
also
think the conclusion that we're making is that the only way that we'll end up with this scenario of AI rebelling or taking authority into its own hands on automatic is that if it was programmed wrong in the first place,
somebody really set themselves out to do it,
any override. You think you would have to be
then
malicious?
You could simulate it.
Or is there no possible way
create a bot.
These things can go out of control on their own?
It actually seems unlikely, though there have been some really good stories.
But let me ask you this in the conclusion to this video. Let me ask you this. Because what people talk about is getting rid of the human equation out of it to where there's human error. They want to create programming which is going to be immune or totally devoid of human error.
Well, you've seen
Is this
how that
the
worked
wrong?
out.
But what I'm saying is that they claim that they can do this and sell
No.
us a better machine where human error will not come in. Because
that argument
like,
fell a long time ago.
but see, they're using this
Yeah.
type of thinking could be very dangerous because they're looking at pilots whenever there's an accident, and they study these things, the flight patterns, they study the black boxes, and they say, wait a second, this boils down to pilot error. You know, they don't want to blame it on the machine or the computing.
Anybody
want
can
to say,
be
oh,
sued.
they say, oh, it's a
The
pilot error.
He's dead, so it's all right to blame it on him.
He's dead, so it's pilot error.
Yeah,
so then
right.
you get this next thinking, the next logical, you know, connection is that, well, we've got to create things in our machines, our technology, our weapons, that there will be no human error involved.
Well, there's human error in the programming. You see, there's human error in the
So
system.
there's no way to actually say there's something without human error. It cannot be done.
Of course.
Well, that's what they're trying to sell, and this is where
AI,
they're going to create an AI in there that's got it in its programming that states that, okay, now do everything without human error. We won't let humans get involved. You just make all your own decisions.
Yeah, that's one of the science fiction ideas, is that the ideology of the machines is that organic systems are full of error. And of course that's based on this thing of the sales pitch.
How can they say that anything that's human created could be separated from the way humans are? Like, if a machine can't make mistakes, but humans do.
You can tell they're lying because their lips are moving. You know what I mean? You know, like the reason that they can say it is because they want to tell the lie to get the bucks.
So if people come trying to sell the government, I have my advice to the government is if they come trying to sell you this, or if they're within the government themselves, this type of thinking, take them all in front of a firing squad and shoot them.
Yes, exactly.
Hitler says that this type of thinking cannot be, it's verboten.
What,
it is verboten. No, to have any kind of thinking that
any kind of thinking at all. Well, let's see, who was it?
I didn't say that.
I'm trying to remember who it was.
That. Take this with a grain of salt.
It wasn't Goebbels, it was the other one. It was Goring. He says, whenever I hear the word culture, I reach for my revolver.
Why does it always have to be we're making fun of the Nazis? In Dr. Strangelove, they made a satire of the entire American government as well as the Russians at the same time. You remember that guy? Well, this is it. How does he? He wrote the bomb down. Are you sure? And he looks at like, what is it, a 6-digit code, and he looks at the manual. He says, well, "This is it, boys."
I gotta have another piece.
There's
of that
no turning back now.
Yeah, right.
And then the other guy's in the control room, the crazy general, and he goes, he has a little publication on top of his service revolver. He uncovers a service revolver, and the other guy looks at it and says, he's the British attaché or something, and he's like,
Canadian.
Are you going to take this as a threat? He like uncovers his revolver. He's already locked in the office. He can't get out.
He shot him in the leg, didn't he?
I don't remember. In the beginning, the first third of the movie, he was just threatening him.
And then when he finally got out,
what did he call Mandrake?
And then he oh, good. Mandrake. Yeah, Peter Sellers played that guy, you know, too.
Peter Sellers played a few characters.
Yeah, he played a bunch of people in that movie.
What do they call that when one guy plays different characters in the same movie?
I can't remember what they call it in China. You know, but he did a thing.
It's a fun.
But,
I can't say good for a lot of movies.
But there was a soldier out there, this guard, you know.
Just really.
And he finally convinced him that he needed to get into the Coca-Cola machine to get some money so that he could make a phone call. So he could use a phone booth, you know, like which required dimes in order to get through, so he could make a phone call and tell them in Washington what was going on. You know, like in call up the Pentagon, and says, okay, but you're going to have to answer the Coca-Cola company. You know? So he busted into the Coke machine and got his change.
It was too late. It makes me think of something that's going on.
It was too late.
We're not going to let any judges tell us what to do.
But I used to see those guys around, see, when I was working, you know, like on the Sage computer, and actually I used to see them around when I was at the local site too, at the analog computer. And they're Canadian. It's NORAD. See, it's a joint command. It's Canadian Air Force and American Air Force.
Well, they're the Royal Air Force.
Huh? Yeah.
They're
the Royal Canadian Air Force.
The Canadians
Yeah.
are not an independent nation, you know. They're under the crown.
Well, they are under the crown more synthetically. I think that they actually.
They never fought a war of independence.
I don't think the British government, you know, like can tell them what to do.
Yeah, they can. They're vassals of the Queen. They owe allegiance to the Queen. Canadians are not their own people.
Well, I know they got it on the money.
They're not a republic.
And
you understand?
And they call it the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They call it the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Yeah, Mounties and all of them.
Yeah, but
because
that's, you know, like, but that's just, I think it's a name.
Their wards.
I think it's Commonwealth, you know.
No, but
the name of the Queen,
you have to understand.
You know? Yeah.
Look, follow the paper trail.
Yeah.
Their charters are a continuous succession back to the Queen. There's no break in it. You have to understand.
Well, there's no revolutionary break.
Any Canadian that I don't want this to be the discussion about this. We can do a whole new video about the Canadians. Not that America has it any better. I mean, there's still a lot of confusion and you know, whether you actually applying what it says.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a lot of people that are fairly